I went from having a lot of nostalgia and a lot of maintenance to getting rid of almost all the nostalgia and getting rid of like pretty much all the maintenance, and then just diving headfirst into growth, wisdom, and then eventually I was able to actually teach people stuff. That in the beginning, it obviously doesn't work that way because I didn't really have any value to bring. Then eventually, now there's a lot of people in my mentee bucket.
I'm spending a lot of time here, and I'm not getting a lot out of this anymore when it comes to growth and goals. And this is one of the things, is in every relationship, you're getting something. Are you getting what you value most, and are you getting what you need to achieve your goals? And I think that there reached a point where I can't stay in the growth bucket with these people. We're not peers anymore.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1956, we promised we would do this episode based on our previous episode. Leaving people behind versus hanging on too long, which one of those is hardest for you? And I think this is a really good episode from a place of self-awareness because there is most likely a reason the one that is harder for you is harder for you. So I was somebody who never thought I was going to be successful. And I realized pretty early on that if I didn't have people around me that really, really, really rooted for me and really, really, really believed in what I was doing and really understood why I was doing it, and gave me the space to do it and gave me the grace to do it and all of that, there was no way I was going to make it. So I was very quick to move on from people. And I know, again, here's the thing. If you resonate with that, I feel you. If you don't resonate with that, it might sound cold, it might sound calculated, it might sound selfish. All the permission to feel those feelings, but we all have our own flow when it comes to this. So there were times where I remember I was dating someone one time and she just didn't get it. She's like, "What?" It was kind of like, this podcast thing you're doing is cute. It was like, no, this is like I'm going to dedicate my life to this. You don't get it. You don't get it.
I can just picture you trying to explain. No. This is like
a thing.
My calling. This is my life's work.
This is what I'm meant to do in the world.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, man.
That's kind of what it felt like. So I knew pretty quickly on that wasn't going to succeed. And again, this life isn't for everyone, so I don't necessarily blame that person. It's like, yeah, honestly, it's going to be a wild ride. So it's not for everybody. I completely understand. But if you look at the people, go ahead.
Can we share the contrast, how Taryn treated it versus that person?
I remember when Taryn and I reconnected, she hadn't been like consistently listening to the podcast, but she checked in on it to see what we were up to and how we'd been doing. And yeah, she's been the most supportive. The conversation we had in the very beginning was, she said, "You have to make me a promise. You'll never force me to be an entrepreneur." And I said, "I would never put you through that hell."
Alan might.
Yeah, Alan will try, but I'll promise I'll make sure it doesn't happen. And
I wonder why when I tried to get her to write a book, you were like, "Dude, stop.
That ain't it." And I said, "You have to promise me you'll never try to take the podcast away. Because if you do, I'll have to leave. Like, this is my thing. But that level of honesty from the beginning was super important. And the support has been amazing. I mean, I couldn't do this without a very, very, very supportive partner. There's no way.
For sure. And I thought about it last night. We were recording till 8:30. I almost said, "Thank Taryn for me."
Last night we finished up.
I spent more time with him than his wife.
I finished up in the office at 9. I was in bed at 9:02. I nodded off. Let me ask you a question. Sell me on why I shouldn't take NyQuil every single night for the rest of my life before I go to sleep. I got back-to-back 91 sleep scores. I've been sleeping
amazing,
like a baby. Sell me on why I shouldn't take it.
I love it. This is one of Kevin's best techniques. He sells himself on when he knows he's doing something wildly irrational.
I know it's bad.
Do you know how many times he's come to me? He's like, "Dude, this is either the smartest thing I've ever come up with or the dumbest shit ever."
It's usually the second one. Yeah, usually the second one. Unfortunately.
What if we just redo that over and over again? It's that. What if we just run that, Yeah, over and over.
I just have to adjust
You know what I'm
my
talking about? Anonymously?
Yes, yes,
Like, what if we just ran the credit card?
I have to adjust my shades here because the camera. I get a little ghost of my camera right now, but I'm listening.
It's brutal. It's brutal. Okay, so let me sell you on the opposite, which is good for staying at 5 and rational.
Sell me.
I am with you on the NyQuil thing. I think anytime you're struggle bus, we have an emergency care package. Anytime you feel like you're on your way to getting sick, we do all the stuff. Some of it is placebo. I get it. Whatever. It works like a charm. Electric blanket, heat, boom, awesome. So NyQuil has been unbelievable at getting high sleep scores. Fair?
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Cheat code. Now, it has alcohol in it, first of all.
It doesn't bother me an ounce. Don't worry about that. Good.
Okay, well, it bothers me a little bit. Okay, next. So you're going to drink alcohol every night then with NyQuil?
No different than any other night. Yeah. Next. I'm just kidding. I don't drink every night.
I know.
But I know it's
The
like a
reason
very
not to do it
small amount.
Is tolerance. It's what we talked about recently. I
Damn.
don't know if it was this episode or the episode before. I was reviewing the show. The TikTok thing, dopamine.
Yeah,
You get a tolerance. So it's just like why I shouldn't drink caffeine all day, every day. You just gain too much of a tolerance, and then it just gets really bad for you.
Well, you haven't sold me, so I will test my own limits. Thank you. No, I'm kidding. I was talking to Taryn about that. I was like, "What are your thoughts on me just drinking NyQuil every night before bed?" And she's like, "I think that is wildly terrible." And I was like,
"Yeah,
I'll think."
It's known known on the streets as robo tripping. It's bad.
Robo tripping. Is that what happens when you just take it and stay awake?
Yes. Yeah. It makes you dumber. It lowers your IQ. Yeah. There's one of the reasons I think I used to drink alcohol is I think it made me dumber, and it shut down my brain. It shuts down the prefrontal cortex. Real quick, I was reading a book. I know. I've been reading a lot because I can't sleep. 59 sleep score. What is the deal? NyQuil. This episode brought to you by Knockoff NyQuil. Next Level NyQuil. We're kidding. There's a book called Brainwash, and it's not what you think. It's brainwash as in clean your brain. Like it's not being brainwashed. It's a neuroscience book, and it's Emilia's, and I jacked it last night to try to fall asleep. I was trying to find the most boring book I could to fall asleep.
There you go.
Nodding off. But it was talking about sleep and the prefrontal cortex and how when you get poor sleep, the prefrontal cortex, everyone think of it this way. The less resourceful your state is, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual state. So let's say you get bad sleep, you didn't eat well, you ate pizza the night before, you drank. I mean, imagine the worst state you can picture. Basically, the prefrontal cortex is the first thing to shut off. So I've often found it fascinating that you can be blackout drunk and still function. You're not functioning well, but you can still move around, talk to people. It's like, wait, we had a conversation? What did we talk about? And what happens is when the body has a ton of alcohol, it's trying to flush the system. It doesn't download short-term memory into long-term memory, which normally happens when we sleep. That's why we dream. One of the reasons we dream. Again, neuroscience stuff. My point of this whole thing is prefrontal cortex is your long-term decision-making. It's your rational brain. It's the part of you that loves your partner and wants to be monogamous and wants to be wonderful and wants to take out the trash and wants to basically be a fucking Boy Scout. I'm kidding. It's the part of you that wants to be wonderful and virtuous. When that is shut down, when that's shut off, it's basic primal instincts. It's eat, sleep, sex. It's just survival. And so for everyone out there watching or listening, little side tangent here.
This is a large ass. Yeah, this is a large. I'm gonna need you to dial it in here quickly.
I'm gonna. One thing that this show will help you do is create habits, and this is my focus for 2025. I want to create habits that allow me to stay in my prefrontal cortex because it is essentially the body's last resource. It doesn't want to use it. It's like a computer. It takes up the most electricity. So it doesn't want to use it. You won't use your prefrontal cortex unless you absolutely have to because calorically, it is the most calorically dense per body mass.
I will never get whatever amount of time we just spent going through that back.
If you NyQuil too much, your prefrontal cortex will be worse, and therefore your life will be worse.
But my sleep will be better. I remain unswayed. No, I'm very much kidding. I'm the type, I don't like taking Advil. I don't like taking aspirin. I very, very, very rarely ever take medication just because I think the headache will go away if I drink enough water and I roll out my neck. Like if it's not the root cause, I want to figure out what the root cause is. So, but I have been a little under the weather for the last 2 days, and I've been trying to be proactive with that.
So what's the root cause of this episode?
The root cause of this episode is you and I did another episode where we said something and we were like, whoa, that would make for a really good episode. And then the team heard that and they said members of the team heard that and they said, we're super excited for that episode. So Alan and I are very much the opposite, if you have not learned that from listening to us. And we are the opposite in this. We have had relationships with people in the past where very early on, I would say, Alan, I don't really want to see this person anymore. I think I've learned all there is to learn. And I didn't say it that way, but it was like, I don't think it's for us.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And Alan would say, well, Kev, there's so many more lessons. This person has a lot of wisdom. Like we should hang out here for longer. And it always became a question after when that relationship maybe did end or we went in different directions. Did we leave too quick or did we stay too long? And I'll let you speak to that because I think
we stayed too long every time.
I think I was usually more accurate, but how would you know? You don't really know at the time.
I think if it was entirely up to you, you would have left too quick. If it was entirely up to me, we would have never left, potentially. And this all comes down to core wounds. And are you more afraid of being alone or are you more afraid of not being successful? And again, those are two fears that are driving most of us. And some of us are afraid of failure. Some of us are afraid of success. The people who are afraid of success are afraid that if they grow, they're going to outgrow people. So the question here, and by the way, I need to take a second to do this. I was wrong, and I need to own that because accurate thinking is really important to me. The Lamborghini thing. The thing that I looked up on ChatGPT on the last episode, and for those of you who didn't listen, it's a really strong episode, minus the fact that I was wrong about something. The bet Kevin and I made live for $10, which we didn't really make a bet, but it is what it is.
Well, it's convenient you say that now after you were false.
I wasn't going to, even when I thought I was right, I wasn't going to go into the business bank account, take $10 out. Okay, so it was apparently Bentley, and the average age for Lamborghini is 47.9 years, which means it's more like 60-40 if you do the math. So it's 60-40 instead of 80-20. Kevin was right, and I was wrong.
Bentley is an older person's car, so it makes sense. Lamborghini is
no cars, man.
Well, I got you on that one. I did drag us into that, so.
Now, real quick, one last caveat on that.
Boy.
For those of you interested, and I said this to Kev yesterday because he texted me, which I think is really funny. He said, what did you say?
This was 2 minutes after we got off, like literally 2 minutes after, because Alan sent me it in WhatsApp.
That's Bentley, you dingo. And I said, and I quote, for any kids watching, earmuffs, oh, fuck, ... He said, haha, Bentley is an old man's car. I said, oh, no, I jeffed us. This is my lack of car knowledge, LOL. So, anyways, the amount of people for Lamborghini is 60-40 over the age of 45. But, how many of the people under 45 are using their own money and not generational wealth? See. It's also really hard to get those numbers. Yeah, you
know, it's like,
Definitely
how would you really ever get the numbers? But
you wouldn't.
ChatGPT does a good job of trying. Okay, what is your perspective on what we're talking about today?
So, I think all of us struggle more with either leaving people behind, setting and honoring clear boundaries, blocking people who maybe are not serving you, saying goodbye, whatever it is, and other people struggle to get around people that are really good for them. I had one client who I was late to a few meetings. He was coaching me, best coach I've ever had, and I was late like by 2 or 3 minutes. I was in the gym, and fitness was my top priority at that time. He said, dude, I need you to be on time, and then I wasn't the next time, and he said, dude, I can't. I'm out. I can't do this. And we had a good run, too. Everything that he taught me ended up being more right than I thought. And everything everyone else taught me ended up being a little more, not everything, I'm exaggerating, but ended up being more wrong than I thought. And that's the sign of a great mentor, in my opinion. This is my opinion. As you get older and learn more and more and more, and you get more understanding of self, others, in the world, you realize, okay, so Emilia, she's more accurate almost every time, she's always right. I always say that. She's always right. She's not actually literally always right, but she's always eventually right. In other words, the advice that she gives, as I get older and older and older and wiser and wiser and wiser, it's, oh, so that person had no idea what they were talking about, and Emilia actually knew. Interesting. And eventually there's this cycle. So there's certain people out there that are not serving you. That's a fact. I did this earlier on our Next Level Certified Coaching Program. I said every one of us needs to identify a person in our life that is just not serving your true potential. It's not serving your mission. It's not serving your goals. It's not serving your dreams. It's just a drain on your time, your effort, your money, whatever. Maybe it's someone who's toxic. Maybe it's someone who's not even toxic. They're just not really adding any value. And I said, okay, by the next session, we need to set some sort of a boundary. It can be blocking them. It can be sending them an audio. It can be whatever. So that for me is much harder. Getting around an Alex, my coach that I was referring to, really incredible mentors that are very successful and know what they're doing in certain regards and are ahead of us. Getting around people that are peak performers, I always felt like was pretty easy for me. It was the outgrowing and or leaving people or setting boundaries that was hard for me.
Would you surmise, I think that's a word, the word that I want to use, that people on my end that deal with maybe similar things to me are really good at recognizing, I don't want to say recognizing the truth of people, because obviously people can evolve and change, and people on your end struggle to see the truth of people?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's one of the reasons it's so easy for me to move on.
You've always been more accurate. You've been more accurate with people than I ever could have imagined. Especially people with your core wound, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I've been more accurate with the mentors.
That makes
pretty
sense.
much. Yeah. Not all of them.
Yeah.
But most of them. So you, on your end, what's it like trying to get mentors and coaches?
Now it's different, obviously, right? But it definitely, in the beginning, it seemed impossible. Because I don't feel valuable. So if I don't feel valuable, how am I ever going to connect myself to somebody who wants to help? It's hard to imagine that somebody would just go out of their way to help me win. And the difference between a coach and a mentor in this conversation is coaches you pay. At least, I mean, that's probably the best way to explain it for us. And mentors just believe in you and they believe in the mission and they want to just add value and help you. And or maybe they see where you're going and they want to attach themselves in some way, shape, or form. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. But most of our mentors we had, we never paid $1 for. I don't think any of them. I don't think we ever paid anything for any of the people that mentored us, which I don't. Here's the truth of the matter. I wasn't capable of making that happen in the beginning. There's no way. I didn't have what they were looking for.
What were they looking for? The last episode was the 3 things. It was self-belief, it was your circle, and it was resources/resourcefulness. And that's how this whole thing came up. This is your circle. So, in my opinion, we taught the 5 buckets? Mm-hmm. The first bucket is people from this. Do you want to go through them?
One is we have nostalgia, which are people from your past that you very rarely see. Like we're talking maybe family reunions, birthdays, holidays. That's nostalgia. So these are people that you spend time with to get nostalgia. Maintenance are people that you put in enough effort to make sure the relationship stays alive, but you're not overpouring, or you shouldn't be. I won't say you're not, but you shouldn't be based on your goals. And then you have mentees. These are people that you are leading. Right? The life that you've created is the life that they desire to create. Then you have the growth bucket, which is people who are on a similar mission to you. So when we were in mastermind with people, they would be in a growth bucket with us because we all want to grow and contribute and add value together. And then the wisdom bucket. These are the people that are 10, 15, 20 years ahead of you. These are the people that their life that they are living right now is like your dream life. And if you can get a lot of people in the wisdom bucket, you can kind of speed up the process, at least from an awareness standpoint. But so, okay, for me in the beginning, I went from having a lot of nostalgia and a lot of maintenance to getting rid of almost all the nostalgia and getting rid of like pretty much all the maintenance, and then just diving headfirst into growth, wisdom, and then eventually I was able to actually teach people stuff.
Yeah.
Now, in the beginning, it obviously doesn't work that way because I didn't really have any value to bring. Then eventually, now there's a lot of people in my mentee bucket when it comes to podcasting and speaking and that type of stuff. But I don't really have. There are some people in the maintenance bucket, but it's not like it was in the beginning, for sure. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
And these buckets evolve as you do. So we had certain people that were in, and this was really hard for us. For me. I don't think it was hard for you. Not nearly as. We would have people in our growth bucket that were peers, and we would, without a question, we would outgrow them. And I don't want to come off negative with that, but it's just we raised our awareness, our understanding, our work ethic. I think in hindsight, humility, and I never considered myself super humble, but the work ethic piece, the grit piece, the consistency piece, the commitment to constantly and never-ending improvement, it was just higher, so the growth rate was higher. You and I grew very quickly in hindsight. Like, we transformed rapidly compared to the statistical norm. And we were in the growth bucket masterminding with a lot of different people. And I remember slowly feeling like this is not aligned anymore. You felt that way more than I did. But eventually it was, I can't be a peer with this person anymore. I remember when I first started coaching and I started getting more clients, and it was 10 clients, then it was 15, it was 12, and then it was 17, and then it was, eventually it's like I'm hanging out with this person and they don't know that I know more than them, and that's okay, but I'm spending a lot of time here, and I'm not getting a lot out of this anymore when it comes to growth and goals. And this is one of the things, is in every relationship you're getting something. Are you getting what you value most, and are you getting what you need to achieve your goals? And I think that there reached a point where I can't stay in the growth bucket with these people. We're not peers anymore. Like, can you think of someone, just hypothetically, you don't have to give a name, call them John Doe or Jane Doe. Think of someone from the past that you could never be a peer with again, where if you were to hang out, it would just be, I can't just hang out because there's no mutual learning here. There's no mutual growth here. There's no,
yeah, of course.
It would be detrimental to our business if you were to go, it's so hard to explain. I don't know if I'm even doing a good job of it. I think it's arrogant to think that you can do that and still run a successful business. I definitely, in hindsight, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I'd say, Alan, you love these people, but you can't win in business and stay here. That's impossible. That's mathematically impossible. I don't know if people, I didn't realize that. I believed that I could bring people with me. That was so fucking naive, dude.
But that's directly connected to your core wound and the way you evolved. On my end, it was the complete opposite. I didn't think I was going to make it. Never mind trying to bring people with me. You know, so I think my end's probably more common, if I had to guess, than yours. But I think it's just fear of success and fear of failure. Fear of success. You heard people say all the time, it's lonely at the top. The bottom's just as lonely, though. It's just, yeah, there's people there, But it's just as lonely if you really want something great. It's just lonely in a different way.
Go deeper on that, because that doesn't land at all for me.
People say that it's lonely at the top, and I think what they're trying to say is there's less people there.
It's
Fair.
lonely internally. It's not lonely geographically.
Is that the right term, geographically?
Your proximity-wise, people are around you all the time. Like, how could someone... Yeah, how could someone, like... I don't want to use anyone else. Okay. The more successful and aware and mature I become, the more lonely it is intellectually and emotionally. But it's not lonely, like...
Yeah.
Geographically. Yeah, I can be around people if I want to be around people. Let me use one of my clients as an example real quick. All right. Who's a client that I'm thinking of that... Okay. Yeah, okay. This person's grown a ton. Been coaching him for 3 plus years now. Growing a ton rapidly. Killing it, crushing it, metrics, habits, goals, boom, boom, boom. He's less lonely when it comes to the people on his core team. But he's way more lonely at barbecues. But he's at a barbecue with a ton of people. He has a family. He's got 2 kids. He's not lonely in proximity. He's lonely in intellectualness. I don't think he's lonely emotionally either. His wife seems wonderful, but he's lonely intellectually because no one else can talk about. Who else wants a net worth of $75 million and actually means it? Like, who else is he going to strategize about that with, right? I mean, just even the statistics. What's the 1% of 1% of 1% or whatever? So when someone says it's lonely at the top, they don't mean it's actually lonely. It's not lonely at all geographically. It's lonely intellectually.
Well, I think the bottom is just as lonely in terms of maybe same thing. If you're somebody who's super ambitious and you hang out with a bunch of people who aren't ambitious, that's lonely as shit. You get time and there's bodies around and there's attention around, but it doesn't necessarily mean you don't feel alone. I think that's something that happens all the time. How many people have you talked to where they'll say something like, I could be in a room with 50 people and I still feel alone. I think that is so common because if you don't feel like you connect with those people.
But statistically speaking, when you, again, lonely at the top, lonely at the bottom there's more individuals. Statistically speaking, let's just use sports as a metaphor here because I don't want this to come off bad. The sports would be so there's more people that play football than are in the NFL. So NFL players are statistically more lonely. There's less people that can relate to their challenges. Olympic athlete. I'm watching a book. I'm watching a movie. Wow, a movie called Race. Have you ever seen that on Netflix? It's based in 1936 Berlin. I love period pieces. I do, and it's the fastest man in the world at that time. But it was a very hectic time, pre-World War II, where Hitler was on the come up, and like. Berlin Olympics was being banned by the U.S. because of all the atrocities, but they still went anyway. And it's based on a true story. It's super fucking inspiring. Just the unbelievable adversity that this person went through, and Hitler like wouldn't shake his hand because he's black and all this terrible shit. But the movie's really powerful. It's really good. It's well done. However, the point of this, where was I going with that? Oh, okay. He's winning Olympic gold, three Olympic gold medals based on a true story. This dude won 3 Olympic gold medals in running. And in a stadium with 120,000 people and the entire world watching. Like, how many other people can relate to that experience? 50 others or whatever.
Yeah, very few.
So that is lonely at the top. That's what we mean. So at the bottom, there's a lot of people who run. So,
but not like that. That person, before they were on the podium, they were the same person, just less evolved and less skilled maybe, and they had less, but they were the same person with the same ambitions. I don't think they felt understood from probably
Agreed,
most
but
of the
you're
journey.
saying it's lonely at the bottom.
I think it's lonely everywhere when you're different.
Oh, when you're different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to a podcast about philosophy and self-improvement, it's probably hard to find someone at a cookout to have a deep conversation with. Potentially. Yeah. So I think that's one of those.
What percentage of people do you think are into self-improvement and philosophy?
If we're talking really into it, because again, there's some people that are into There's some people that are into rock, and then there's some people that are like, that's all they listen to, and there's some people that's all they listen to, and they have posters on their walls. I mean, there's levels.
And then there's
to it,
people
right?
who go to the concerts.
There's people that go to the
And
concerts.
there's people that get front row seats, and there's people that get backstage passes.
There's
right?
people that make a tribute band to their favorite rock band. It's like there's levels and levels and levels and levels. It's a very small percentage of people that are really, really, really obsessed with it, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's I think it's this weird thing where maybe we make this agreement in our minds where and again, I know I sound extremely cold when I'm talking about this. I don't mean it that way. I love all the people that I don't spend time with anymore that I used to. I still have deep love for them. I look them up all the time. I think about them all the time. It's not that. I have to make sure I'm successful. That is my job. And that
you
is
have to
something
take care
that
of you and your family. And
yeah, and I didn't even think I was going to be able to do that. So I always, if I think the ship is sinking, I got to do my best to make sure that there's nothing on that ship that's going to bring me down too. It's not my responsibility to save other people. I don't believe it is. It's my responsibility to save myself, because if I don't save myself, I can't save shit. It's the oxygen mask thing. If I was on a plane and the oxygen masks came down, I would have a fucking anxiety attack. So I wouldn't be saving anybody. But you can't think the first thing I would want to do is run up and find the kid. Like, of course you'd want to do that, but then you die. Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Now you have much more self-belief than you used to. The more self-belief you have, do you feel more responsibility to take care of more than just yourself?
Yes and no. The team, I feel a very heavy responsibility for the team. Right? There are people on the team relying upon us to feed their families. Like, I feel a very, very, but I guess I'm at the point where I understand.
Are you consciously deciding what level of responsibility you take for?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't.
I wonder if unconsciously I didn't do that well enough.
I can't take. I need to take responsibility for. If anything, I need to take more responsibility from me. I need to take more responsibility from me. Right? Like, this is hard as shit. This is super hard.
Well, as you've gained belief, you can spread your responsibility outward, I think.
But as I've gained belief, I've set bigger goals.
But those goals are contribution goals. A lot of them.
Well, yeah, but I think at the end of the day, the understanding that I need to have is I have to, and again, it's going to sound selfish, I have to give myself the most attention. Because if I don't give myself the most attention, if I only give myself 60%, how much am I going to be able to give to Taryn?
So in hindsight, I think people who are fearful of success on some unconscious level, I'm including myself in this, you're taking responsibility for more than just yourself. Can I add real quick to that? I think you're taking responsibility for more than just yourself, because if people come up with you, you're still quote-unquote successful because you have people around you. So it's almost like you think you have to take responsibility in order for people to come with you that wouldn't come with you normally, because they wouldn't come with you normally unless you drag them with you. So in a way, it is kind of your responsibility if you want them there in the future. Yeah.
Even if they don't belong. Sorry.
I remember when my stepdad left, I took responsibility for keeping the house and the family, for example. That's just kind of a high-level thing. And I think I took responsibility for being the man of the house, whatever that meant at the time, and none of this was conscious. I would say some of it was conscious. Some of it was conscious. I remember thinking, we are fucked. We're fucked. Absolutely fucked. Like, what are we going to do? You know?
Yeah.
I don't usually share that, but it was definitely devastating. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? I can't even go to college. You know? How am I going to go to college? Like, and then you just kind of, okay, I'll just figure it out. And then you just take responsibility and do it. And then you do it. And none of that was like super conscious, I don't think. I think it was just kind of, okay, well, no one's coming to save me, so I have to do this. And what does this mean? Okay, straight A's, blah, blah, blah. I remember when I was young, I wanted to change the world. And I still do. And I still intend on it. But I think what that really means is I'm going to take responsibility for the world being better. Like I personally am responsible for the world getting better. I feel that way very deeply. I'm more responsible for me getting better than I am for making sure the world gets better. But it's almost like I always say this, build the self, build the family, build the business. I say that all the time now. In my 30s are about building. But I've wanted to change the world since I was a kid. I don't know where the hell that comes from. And I don't mean it on some like I want to say it because it's cool level. If anything, I'd rather hide it, to be completely honest, because I'm more normal then. But I've always had this knowing that I'm supposed to change the world. That sounds so fucking weird. But I just knew that. So I'm taking responsibility for the world being a better place. We have it on our fireplace. Be the change you wish to see in the world. So build the self, build the business. Build the self, build the family, build the business. So right now it's build the self, build the family, which is Emilia, our pets, our future children, her mom and dad, sister and brother, and my mother. And that's the core fam. And then beyond that, and then the team. So the business, build the business. That's the team. That's you, Christina, chief officers, directors, team, extended team, Patriots, freelancers, blah, blah, blah. And then the clients, and then the group coaching, and then the community. Like we are taking responsibility for the well-being of way more than just ourselves. And I think that that's a good thing. I think it comes with a bad thing if you don't know how to set these boundaries up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the difference is, and I appreciate the expansion, I think the difference is I stopped trying to bring people on who just didn't want to come.
Yeah, that I need to do.
It's not
that I've done. I've done that pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's where
lately.
It gets. Because again, like if you're a
How
podcaster,
do you know they don't want to come? That's the thing. Everyone acts like they want to come.
I compare it to people that have actually
want to come.
Yeah, how actually? I don't know.
Is
if
it
you're
actions?
a podcaster,
Is it based on actions? Like, how do you size that up?
Reception.
Everyone acts like they want to change the world, dude. Seriously, like
they do with you.
Well, that's makes it very hard to understand, and I think it's getting more clear. Quite frankly, it's a commitment to. I realize that my relationship with someone will be great to the extent they want to reach their own unique potential. That's what I've come to, and I think that's who I am and what I am and who I aspire to be and all that stuff. But anyways, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think action is a big thing. I think humility is a big thing. It's almost like you give somebody a certain amount of chances. I would much rather pour into a podcaster that has no idea what they're doing, that wants to have a positive impact on the world, than somebody I went to high school with just because we went to high school together. That. And I don't value the same stuff necessarily that I used to value. I don't value going out and partying. So if that was the thing that we built our friendship on, that doesn't exist for me anymore. Yeah. And if that's all we have, I'm gonna pour into somebody that values self-improvement, because that's more fulfilling for me anyway, and I can actually be myself. I've always been a very big proponent of, if it's not sustainable, I think it's worth exploring whether or not it deserves to live at all in terms of a friendship relationship.
So I have a coaching call, so we got to jump. But for a practical tip from me and then from Kev's side, two different ends. If you're on my end and you struggle to set boundaries and you struggle to let people go, for lack of better phrasing, then you need to find someone in your life, in your consciousness, where first names only in your head, and you need to let go of all responsibility and just good luck, take care, it's been real, set a boundary, send a message, block them, whatever. Your prerogative. You don't have to necessarily explain yourself. It's up to you. And whatever Kev's tip is for his side.
Mine would be really sit with the fact that, sit with what matters most to you. Would you rather be lonely and making progress? And I'm not saying it has to be, these are the only two options, but just for this episode, would you rather be lonely and making progress, or surrounded by people and feeling stuck? If it's the second one, you got to take a shot.
Brutal.
You got to take a shot. You got to take a shot, and you got to start leaning in.
They're both pretty brutal.
They are.
That's the problem. But one of them is worse, and it's the second one. Yeah.
I think one of them has a brighter light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I would say. And again, my tactical thing, my advice would be, all of this is easier said than done.
Yeah,
of course.
For sure.
All of this is way easier said than done, and it's easier now than it was 5 years ago, and it was easier 5 years ago than it was 10 years ago, and all that happy jazz. Deep one today. All right. Next Level Nation, a group of amazing people like you who want to grow and they want to get to the next level and they want to have deep philosophical conversations about life, all that stuff. Alan has coaching spots available. We'll have the link in the show notes for a free 30-minute breakthrough session with Alan. It's not a sales call. He's going to add value, help you with habits, all that stuff. And Dreamliners are on Amazon. Ours are on their way. I'm super excited because I miss them. That's that. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay next level. Next Level Nation.